When a proposed second sequel to Airport was being considered, people laughed at the producers and the cast. Boys, they laughed all the way to the bank. One of the biggest box office hits of the mid 1970s. It made, almost 100 million in the box office, comparable to about 240 million now. So today we're going to be talking about the very, very unintentionally funny and very dramatic Airport 77. The third installment of the Airport film series stars an ensemble cast of veteran actors, including Jack Lemmon, James Stewart, Joseph Cotton, Olivia de Havilland, and Brenda Vaccaro, as well as the return of George Kennedy from the two previous Airport films. Directed by Jerry Jameson, produced by William Fry, executive produced by Jennings Lang, with a screenplay by Michael Sheff and David Spector. The plot concerns a private Boeing 747 packed with VIPs and prices art that is hijacked before crashing in the ocean near the Bermuda Triangle, prompting survivors to undertake a desperate struggle for survival. Despite mixed critical reviews, Airport 77 grossed $91 million worldwide and was nominated for 2 Academy Awards. Now, story by Hal Craig and Charles Kunstler, cinematography Philip Latrop and Rexford Metz, edited by the team of Watson Williams, music by John Kavakis, color Technicolor. Although 113 minutes on first release, there was an additional 60 to 90 minutes for the television version, which gives more background to the plot. Now in this one, wealthy philanthropist Philip Stevens is having invited guests flown in on his luxurious, privately owned Boeing 747 100. Stevens' Flight 23 to his Palm Beach, Florida estate is well served. Aboard are his estranged adult daughter and her young son. Price's artwork from Stevens' private collection, destined for the new museum, is also on the jet ladder. The collection has motivated a group of thieves led by co-pilot Bob Chambers to hijack the aircraft. Mid-flight, Captain Don Gallagher is lured from the cockpit and rendered unconscious. The sleeping gas, equally installed pre-flight, is released into the cabin, knocking out the unprotected crew and passengers. Chambers, flying to a small deserted island to offload the treasures, drops the plane below radar range, causing Stevenson's Flight 22 to disappear in a nearby Bermuda Triangle. Descending to virtual wave-top altitude, Flight 23 heads into a fog bank, reducing visibility. Minutes later, a large offshore drilling platform emerges from the haze, and Flight 23 is headed straight forward. Now, Chambers attempts to avert a collision, but the wing clips the structure's tower, igniting an engine. Chambers extinguishes the fire, but a sudden loss of airspeed threatens to stall the airplane. As he struggles to maintain control, the passengers begin waking up into the unfolding disaster. Chambers, unable to maintain his airspeed, the plane stalls and crashes into the water, floating momentarily before quietly slipping below the surface. Now, this is very well done. Great special effects, by the way. Now, the plane settles in relatively shallow water that is above the plane's crush depth, though water pressure gradually compromises the fuselage. Many passengers are injured, some seriously. Chambers, the only surviving hijacker, reveals the plane is 200 miles off course, meaning search and rescue efforts will be focused in the wrong area. As the search for the missing plane is launched, veteran aeronautics expert Joe Petroni joins the rescue operation as a technical advisor, joined by the jet's owner, Philip Stevens. Meanwhile, the trapped crew can only contact rescuers by getting a single buoy to the surface. Captain Gallagher and a professional diver and passenger, Martin Wallace, enter the main cargo preparing to swim to the surface using air mass. The hatch suddenly blows open, killing Wallace. Gallagher barely makes it to the surface and activates the emergency beacon. The signal is detected and a rescue operation is launched. Meanwhile, the plane's fuselage is steadily leaking. Now, the Navy eventually dispatches a sub-recovery ship, the USS Cayuga, destroyer USS Agerholm, and a flotilla of other vessels to the crash site, rescuing Gallagher. Guided by Gallagher, Navy divers rig the plane with balloons and inflate them, slowly raising the aircraft. Had to be seen to believe. Now, this could cause the plane to split apart. Just before the plane reaches the surface, a balloon breaks loose and pressure is reduced to stabilize the aircraft. A cargo hold door inside the plane bursts open and seawater swamps the cabin. Chambers, pinned under a sofa, drowns. Emily's injured friend Dorothy dies from her injuries, while Wallace's widow Karen and his stewardess drown. With time running out, air pressures increase, raising the plane to the surface. All survivors are quickly evacuated. Captain Gallagher and Stevens' assistant Eve get trapped inside and escape through the upper deck. Now, at this point in the movie, all buoyancy is lost, and a 747 slips under the waves for the last time. The few survivors are unloaded on a nearby rescue ship, thus ending the exciting denouement. Now, besides Lemon, Grant, Vaccaro, Cotton, de Havilland, Jimmy Stewart, George Kennedy, there's Darren McGavin, Christopher Lee, Robert Foxworth, Robert Hooks, Monty Markham, Kathleen Quinlan, one of my favorites, Jill Gerard, Pamela Bellwood of Dynasty fame, and of course, Tom Sullivan and M. Emmett Walsh, two character actors from the time. Now, although the disaster portrayed in the film is fictional, rescue operations depicted in the movie are actually rescue operations utilized by the Navy in the event of similar emergencies or disasters, as indicated in the film prior to closing credits. Now, when it was broadcast on NBC in September 78, an additional 70 minutes of outtakes and new footage, shot especially for network TV, was added. Now, Rotten Tomatoes, a review aggregate, reports that 40% of the surveyed critics gave the film a positive review. The average rating is 5.4 out of 10. On Metacritic, the film has a weighted average score of 36 out of 100, based on 7 critics, indicating generally unfavorable reviews. Variety wrote, the story's formal banality is credible most of the time. There's some good actual U.S. Navy search and rescue procedure injected in the plot. It's like this, who's going to die next? Now, Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times rated it 2 out of 4 and wrote, the movie's a big, slick entertainment, relentlessly ridiculous and therefore never boring for long. The New York Times wrote, Airport 77 looks less like a work of a director and writers than a corporate decision, because, you want to make money. Now, it grossed $30 million in the States and Canada, but $61 million internationally. Very big in Japan, because the disaster movie is always big. So the Academy Award nominations, Best Art Direction by Webb and Michaels, George Webb and Mickey Michaels. And, of course, Enid had another nomination, Best Costume Design with Burton Miller. Now, from late 77 to the early 80s, the Universal Studios tour in California featured the Airport 77 Screen Test Theater as part of the tour. Several sets were recreated, and members of the audience were chosen to play various parts. The audience would watch as the scenes were filmed. Key scenes such as the hijacking, crash, and rescue were recreated, and footage was then incorporated in a brief digest version of the film and screened for the audience on monitors. Each show's mini-film was made available to audience members to purchase on 8mm and videotape. Got to be part of the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, I saw it. I give it 2.5 out of 4. Now, we had the Concorde version that was the next one, but George Kennedy playing George Kennedy, and Darren McGavin playing Darren McGavin, Jill Gerard playing Jill Gerard. But Jack Lemmon, this movie only cost $6 million to make, so somebody must have took points in the movie. But what were you going to see a movie with Christopher Lee and Jack Lemmon and Jimmy Stewart and Olivia de Havilland and Darren McGavin? Kolchak beats Liberty Valance, as we say. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's our latest in our disaster film reviews. If you like what we're doing here, sorry about the cough, but there's a flu going around New Brunswick. I got a touch of it, and, we're a one-take area, so please be compassionate towards your podcaster. Give us a like, comment, subscribe, or share, and requests are always appreciated and always highly considered. Bye.